government.
You were there. I was not there. Check the record. Wait now. You were there. I was not there.
To the voices of the people.
We are suffering. This suffering is too much. It's too much. Look at the students. There's no job. They finish school. There's no job for them.
We analyze the undercurrents, expose the intrigues, and break down the narratives that define our democracy. Dr. Tony Olisa Mbeki, delivering razor-sharp analysis, and Ibuka Franklin and Chisom on the question wheel, driving the conversation. We bring you the most compelling discussions on governance, policies, and power plays. Stay informed, stay engaged, stay ahead. The Polity, every weekdays at 9:15 a.m. Exclusive on Udala 104.7 FM Onitsha.
Okay, of course, we are glad to have you join us this very morning on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. It's 17 minutes past 9 a.m. and we're saying good morning to every one of you listening to us right now. We are saying welcome to the Polity on the 0020 radio station east of the Niger. We are transmitting from the Commercial Nav Center of Anambra State on Onitsha. My name is Franklin Ibuka, and this very morning we are going to bring you some interesting conversations because the papers are washed with interesting headlines. If you look at here in Anambra State yesterday, the Anambra State government unveiled the outcome of the second ANSEC meeting in 2026, and in that very outcome of that very meeting, we can say three things were salient. One is the contract that we approved for different projects about contracts worth about 600 million naira. Then we also saw the approval for the swearing in for second term of the governor of Anambra State. We also saw the fact that the government of Anambra State has said that Alex Ekwueme Square henceforth has become an extension of the government house. So anything about social activity or any sporting activity can no longer be entertained at that very Alex Ekwueme Square. If you want to do anything about sports or social events, go to the stadium in Oka and have your event. That's what the government of Anambra State said yesterday in the outcome of that very meeting, which held on the 2nd of this very month, March 2026. There are other developments we would like to cover this very morning, like the issue regarding President Bola Tinubu's directive that the cashless policy at the airport should be suspended for now, and he wants them to go back to the drawing board to look at the issues that have presented challenges for people who use the airport on a daily basis. And talk about the outcome of the FEC meeting that happened yesterday, and also the move by the police IGP or the move by the IGP to set up a committee that is going to develop a framework for state police. All this and more you're going to see on the pages of the paper this very morning. So stay with us. We are going to begin the conversations in a moment. Okay, once more, thank you for staying tuned to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. You are listening to The Polity. My name is Franklin Ibuka, and down with Tony Olisambeki this very morning on this very show. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, Franklin. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, the good people of Southeast. Good morning, Anambra. Good morning, Onitsha, Donidu. Good morning, Afia, Oroyibo, Nanyi Fomana Nanyanya, the transporters, and many people under the reach of our voice. The the less privileged, the physically challenged, the artisans, everyone, different communities in Anambra State, in Enugu State, in Ebonyi State, in Abia State, in Imo State, in Delta State, in Edo State, even in Kogi State. We welcome every one of you. It's a very beautiful Thursday morning, the 5th day in the month of March in the year 2026. We thank God Almighty for His mercy, for His grace, for His love, for everything He has been doing for us, and we appreciate Him, we glorify Him, and it's always a pleasure to be here. Just sit back and enjoy the program. We have got so much to talk about this very morning, to enlighten you, to educate you, to direct you, and also to bring certain things to your doorstep. We are in the sanctuary where we profess nothing but the truth. You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Tony, for that. Of course, let's let you know that we are live on our Facebook page, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Get on that very page and join this very conversation. The video is up already. You can share the video and drop your comments. Udala Radio 104.7 FM. That's on Facebook, on Instagram, and the YouTube. It's Udala Radio. Get interactive on those platforms. Okay, so we're going to look at some headlines on the paper, but only just a quick one. If you look at if you look at X this very morning, you will see some of the trends we have there. We have Davido and Choma trending, Portable trending, Paul Scholes trending, and earlier it was Ateta trending, and what have you not. And if you check the trend of Ateta, Paul Scholes, it's all about what has been happening in the English Premier League as regards to the to the bid for the title. Yesterday, with some matches that were played yesterday, and the outcomes are already out there. Arsenal have been able to open up 7-point gap over Man City, no thanks to the draw that Man City played yesterday against Nottingham Forest. And it has once more, brought out the conversation about if Arsenal is playing football or playing retrogressive football.
Well, we have had some kind of tidbit or some kind of conversations about what some people are saying. Naysayers will always have their own say, and even the other side of it will always also have their own say. If you look at what Postcode, you know why Postcode is trending. Postcode did say, I think he was actually saying that no Premier League club has convinced him that they should be giving the Premier League champions, that he doesn't think they should give the trophy out this year. No club deserves the trophy. You should understand why he's making this statement. If Manchester United were the one playing the way Arsenal is playing and being the league leaders, you don't expect him to say things like this. He will even try to convince everyone or justify why they're playing the way they're playing. People should understand one thing for sure. Arsenal have played beautiful football many years. The last time they won such championship was in 2003-2004 season. Many years ago, about more than 20 years. Over time, they've had great players. I could recall when they had likes of Rosiski, Kazuya. They had so many players. And in fact, in all these matches, we call these matches tic-tac. In fact, there was one of the goals Arsenal scored where they played from the back. Every player had a touch of the ball till the goal was scored. And people clap for them. But where did it take you to? Where did it take you to? It fetched you nothing. And most times we've seen teams bully them in a way and manner they played. And sometimes they will tell you that they cannot stand the physicality of some of the teams like Stoke City. We remember when we used throw-in and other set pieces to win game. Nobody criticized Stoke. But we are applauding Stoke, saying Arsenal cannot withstand physicalities. They don't have the players to withstand physicalities. Now Arsenal have devised ways of winning, trying to be physical, trying to do what other teams do. Now they are now being told that you are not playing beautiful football. In fact, you are a disgraceful team. You are very distasteful. You cannot even watch a game. Look at Barcelona. Look at Real Madrid. But people forget one thing: La Liga is not as strong as Premier League. It's not strong. 2 teams compete in La Liga, but we have got about 5 to 6 teams compete in Premier League, and that's one of the strongest leagues. Look at investments that have come in that very league. The issue is you must at times win dirty. There are times for you to win Premier League, you must win. We've seen great players when they come to Premier League, they don't flourish. We saw Shevchenko, we saw likes of even the guy that before now was playing in Premier League, but he couldn't find his feet. There were many players that came to Premier League, they couldn't even perform, but they have to go back to La Liga. La Liga is where you come, you'll be allowed to run with the ball, you're allowed to dribble 4 players, 5 players. You can't dribble such players in Premier League. So it's a very difficult league. People should understand why Arsenal is playing the way they're playing. For crying out loud, I saw how Wolves equalized in the game they played with Arsenal. I also saw how Brentford equalized with the game they played with Arsenal. They showed that masculinity, that physicality. In the case of Brentford, it was a throw-in where somebody have to use towel to clean the ball, so where they have to throw from a very long distance. And nobody criticized Brentford. If Arsenal do it, Arsenal attract criticism, but other teams do it, they go scot-free.
Okay, so we now understand why Postcodes is trending this very morning. Let's talk about Anambra State, because yesterday, the Commissioner for Information in Anambra State, Dr. Lomefo, he put out the outcome of the second ANSEC meeting held on March 2nd, 2026 in Oka, and the 3 things stood out in that very press statement that he issued yesterday. One is the award of contract worth over 600 million naira for different projects across the state. The second one is the approval of the events that are going to herald the swearing in of Governor Charles Oludo for second term in office. And then the third one is the fact that any social activity or sporting activity has been banned at the Alex Ekweme Square in Oka. So Tony, let's look at this very development for Anambra State. One is the project, and second one, the second term swearing in of the governor. How far the first term has been, because it's going to happen on 17th of this very month.
I think 17th should be Wednesday, if you go by what we have on the calendar. 17th should be Wednesday. You talked about the state council meeting held, and 3 things stood out. One has to do with the preparation for the swearing in. The governor will be sworn in on the 17th day of March, and that will mark the commencement of his second term in office, no doubt. And outside that, we also understand that the issue of Alex Ekweme Square, now strictly for government business or government functions, and no more sports and other activities or private activities going on there. We know very well that very area has been used for different private activities. Most times, if you go through that pathway on Saturdays, you see sportsmen and women doing their morning exercise. We're seeing some functions, social functions taking place in that very place. But we know that very place now is very close to the lighthouse, the new government house. Before, it was not close to where government does its business. So it's somehow, if somebody is coming for business, you see people having their function close by. It is trackable from Alex Ekweme Square to the new government house. It's trackable. It's just few meters away. For the government, they believe that you don't destroy government activities, but they have moved them to the township stadium in Oka where they can do those things. That is one. And the other one has to do with the swearing in, just like you pointed out earlier on. The 3 events, one will be the interdenominational service, and Thanksgiving, the swearing in and Thanksgiving. We understand that government these days, they are just trying to see how they can reduce the cost. I think the swearing in should not be a big ceremony. It should not be that gigantic thing. It should not be where money will be spent, just as we've seen from what the commissioner told us. One, there will be interdenominational service, more like heralding the end of the first administration. I think it will be this Sunday. Then we have the other one coming up, the swearing in day. After swearing in, the next Sunday will be Thanksgiving. I think these are the 3 events. I discovered the release for the programs, and if you look at these events, it's just all about 2 of them. 2 of these events have to do with church service. The other one has to do with the swearing in proper, and then you're gonna invite guests, but they should ensure that you don't spend so much. There are so many things to do with money. Work, of course, we know is littering everywhere. We want to see more work. So they should conserve the little resource we have to ensure that there is peaceful. There is no transition anyway. It's just progression, if you ask me. They are not transiting from one government to the other. It's just progression. They should minimize the costs.
Okay, so one thing I'm sure is that there's going to be a Akwete. Akwete is going to be on display because governor is going to wear his Akwete. But what I don't know whether is going to be there is Dinkwenu from Obu and Abacha from Orumba. I do not know whether that one is going to be on display, but that's by the way. So look at the headlines we have this very morning on 4 newspapers.
You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, you are listening to the Polity on Udala Radio 104.7 FM. It's 9:31 a.m. and we are going to look at the papers now and tell you what the headlines are saying. We have 4 newspapers: The Guardian, Punch, Vanguard, Daily Sun. And we begin with the headlines we have on Daily Sun newspaper. The big story there says 2027, INEC begins review of political parties' guidelines. The story can be found on page 25. It had some riders. Vows to enforce credible party primaries. Integrity, transparency of electoral processes paramount to fostering public trust. Amopito. AMAC chairman, others get certificates of return. And that story says 2027, uncertainty over special parliamentary seats, independent candidacy. And that story is on the front page of Daily Sun. Another headline beside the nameplate says Tinubu orders suspension of airport cashless policy amid gridlock. The story is on page 23. I don't know if any of us saw the video of the white man who had to mount a motorbike for him to be able to catch his flight because of the kind of delay he suffered while the vehicle that conveyed him to the airport was trying to, clear itself because of the cashless policy. And the president has come in to say, for now, suspend everything, go back to drawing board and get your acts together. Another story says electricity workers set for strike as 21-day ultimatum expires. The story is on page 23. And I'm just wondering, if these guys go on strike, what becomes of the fate of Nigerians? Because now they are not on strike and we have not been seeing power supply. So what is going to happen if they go on strike? Yesterday on social media, everybody was asking questions. Those who are in Norca, those who are in Onitsha. Well, I saw their different posts asking questions about what has been happening to power supply. Another story says insecurity. Kogi LG imposes indefinite dusk to dawn curfew. Tinubu swears in IGP Disu, administers oath of office on Ramafak. FCSC commissioners. That story is on page 4. You can also see the story on page 28. It has a rider to it. IG inaugurates 8-man committee on implementation of state police. Reps query customs, MPA others over pre-shipment inspection. That story can be found on page 8 of the Daily Sun newspaper. We cross over to Vanguard, where we have the headline that says a boost for state police as IGP sets up panel on framework. That's the big story on page 5. It has some riders. This who sworn in as 23rd IGP assures Nigerians on security and welfare. Ebotokun's DIGs attend strategic session convened by DISU. Police monitoring Middle East tensions for local impact. Moving on the headlines we have in Vanguard newspaper. FEC approves demolition of Qatar Bridge. That story is on page 15. 89th birthday. My prison years were for my principles. The story is on page 15. And who is saying so? Former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Middle East war. Spanish Prime Minister takes on Trump after threat to cut trade ties. The story is on page 8. It has a rider that says 87 killed as U.S. sinks Iran ship headed back from India. And U.S. Embassy cancels visa appointment. Yes, and we learned that that the U.S. wanted to use a base in Spain to launch some strike on Iran, but Spain refused. And that's why Trump threatened that U.S. is going to cut business ties with Spain. Another story says Nigeria's money supply drops slightly to 123 trillion naira. That story is on page 20. Economic hardship. Parents move wards from private to public schools. That story is on page 21 of Vanguard. Party crisis distracting us. Fueling our party, INEC. The story is on page 26 of Vanguard newspaper. Another headline here says Middle East crisis. Cooking gas surges 40% to 1,400 naira per kg. Page 19. ICPC, why I'm keeping quiet. L5. Page 9. Alleged terror financing. AGF takes over Malami trial to review DSS case file. The story is also on page 9. Tinubu proposes grid asset management firm to fix power sector. That story is on page 8 of Vanguard newspaper. And we go over to the Punch. The big story says State Police IG sets up panel to propose framework. That story is on page 2. It has a rider. New police chief insists force not threatened. Orders intelligence over Middle East tensions. Zamfara governor weighs defection as INEC deadline looms. The story is on page 22. I won't die anytime soon, Obasanjo declares at 89. Page 14. FG approves 1.2 trillion naira for Ibadan-Ilesha roads. Others. Page 14. Tinubu halt cashless airport toll over gridlock chaos. The story is on page 23. Oyo 2027 jostle for Adelabu's ministerial seat hits up. Page 23. Lagos prosecutes 4,000 residents for illegal waste dumping. Pages 4 and 5 of Punch newspaper. Alleged terrorism. AGF takes over Malami's son's case. The story is on page 22. And then we move to the last paper, which is The Guardian. And the big story says State Police Committee resumes amid framework abuse concerns. The story is on page 6. Police probe killing of man accused of shooting brother in dream. The story is on page 9. So, Tony, I don't know how we are going to describe this very story. Somebody killed his brother because he dreamt where his brother shot him. And then he woke up and killed him. I don't know how we are going to, describe such a sordid story. Sit at home. Workers Nawoj fault courts in February salary. The story is on page 7. Court begins trial of Malami's son over terrorism financing on March 10th. Page 20. Luth partners begin first immunotherapy trial for colorectal cancer. The story is on page 6. Obasanjo warns against personalized power, urges institutional stewardship. Page 5. U.S. Embassy cancels visa appointments over Abuja protest scare. It's on page 20. And this one says, Electoral Act, INEC insists on compliance as opposition jitters over mandatory e-register. Page 8 of the current newspaper. Reps query customs, CBN, MPA in pre-shipment non-remittance row. Page 7. Middle East crisis, force majeure declaration spikes global LNG price. The story is on page 3. Al-Rufai keeps mute in custody, protests political prosecution or persecution. That story is on page 30 of the Guardian newspaper. So these are the headlines we have this very morning. And from there, we are going to switch straight to the analysis so that you get to have perspectives on these very issues. Stay with us.
You're listening to The Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, thank you for staying tuned to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. You are listening to The Polity. My name is Franklin Ebukandam with Tony Olisambeki. And just to remind you that this month is our month of anniversary. Udala Radio will be marking 1 year very soon. 21st of March is the D-Day, but of course, the build-up is already there. And there is a promo that, of course, he can do. He can place 2 slots of advert and get 1 free. So it's an opportunity for you to cash in now and promote your business and boost your visibility. Of course, they say that business without advertising is like winking at a girl in the dark. So she's not going to see anything. So if you want to boost your business visibility, of course, you need to place your advert. So if you can come around, just buy 2 slots. We're going to give you 1 free. If it's a program, buy 2 slots. We're going to give you 1 free, just in the spirit of this very anniversary. So Tony, let's begin with the story about what happened yesterday, where the IGP, if you like, the new IGP, Olatunji Disu, he inaugurated a committee that is going to midwife state police for Nigeria. And this very committee is led by a professor, a professor of police studies. And the committee has been given a directive or given a mandate to review existing policing models within and outside Nigeria, assess community security needs, propose an operational framework for state police, the structures and what have you not. And the committee was also asked to address issues of recruitment, training, standards, funding, accountability and oversight. And from the look of things now, it appears that it is now clear on why Mr. President relieved Ebotakun of his appointment. Perhaps it's pointing toward the direction that he was against state policing. Now we have Disu. Within 1 week of his appointment as an acting IGP, he has taken a move towards state police. So, Tony, what does this say about the intent of Mr. President and where we are headed?
Well, I don't know if Disu is acting on the order of Mr. President or he is actually doing his own thing. But for me, I think he has no jurisdiction to do what he's doing. When we talk about state police is a constitutional thing where we know that the National Assembly has got some job to do. We've been calling on them to see to the amendment of Section 214 of the Constitution that establishes Nigerian Police Force, where there will be some provisions that will also allow states to have their own policing system. It is the work of the National Assembly, and where the president has also a job to play, where he has to assent to what National Assembly has done. National Assembly has not called for memoranda from members of the public. They have not called for that. So what this is doing is his own business. Nobody has asked you to provide a framework. Nobody has asked you to do one thing or the other. You have not been called upon by the National Assembly, because when National Assembly will begin the process, they will call for memoranda. Just like I said, they have everything. Probably they are trying to get themselves ready. Probably by the time they are called, they will submit what they think. If they are called upon, if they are not called, they have no business. They should focus on policing this country. They should focus on security, and they should stay away from politics. I've said it many times. Their work is totally apolitical. I've seen times where we'll be talking about state police. You will see former Inspector General of Police talking about whether we are ripe or we are not ripe. You don't have business to talk about if Nigeria will have state police or not. You've been hired for a job. Nigeria has hired you for a job. Perform the job professionally. If you are asked to make an input, you make your input seamlessly. You don't just go to public functions, start talking about state police. It is not your business. It is not your business.
Don't you think that what the police has done with this very committee is that this committee will be able to articulate the position or the idea of the police when it comes to running this very structure, so that if Mr. President is going to ask for their input, they will be able to present something tangible? Because maybe, who knows, if this is going to come as an executive bill to the National Assembly.
Even if it should come as an executive bill to the National Assembly, it is left for to be seen. The work, who does the work? The National Assembly. They are the one that would come up with any document that provides both the framework, the operational guideline, the whole gamut of state policing system. If they finish with this, their work, this framework, whatever they are doing now, who do you think they will submit it to? Or they will have it to themselves, or they will return it to? No, it makes no sense. But just like I said, if it is an internal thing, getting yourself ready, if you are called upon to submit anything, you will go on and do that. But it's not something you come in the open to start advertising, start making statements about it. You don't sound political. Allow those saddled with such responsibility to do what the Constitution has empowered them to do. The Constitution has empowered you to ensure security, protection of lives and properties, and ensure that Nigerians are safe. You focus on that. This issue of discussing, you invited a professor, you inaugurated a committee. I mean, it makes no sense. You usurp the power of the National Assembly or even the power of the executive. You are just a police as an institution. So when I saw the inauguration yesterday, I asked myself, what is Olatunji doing? Who has given him such mandate? Who has given him such power? Did Mr. President has told him to do that? No problem. Probably Mr. President may have told him to do that so that they will have an input if it is a case of executive bill. But we've seen that Mr. President has called on National Assembly to come up with something. If it's going to be executive bill, they must have done one by now and get it submitted. I think he is just misplacing the priority. He should set up a framework to ensure effective policing as we speak. I've been an advocate of state police.
Now, Tony, this state police, we'll be talking about it. Maybe we are at the beginning part of this very conversation about state police, in as much as it's been on for quite a while. In fact, for years, people have been pushing for it, but now it appears like the country is now serious and wants to do something significant when it comes to having a state police. But we have not actually sat down to talk about the possible things that might need to be cleared if we are going to have something robust and something that is going to be very functional. Take, for instance, the issue of jurisdiction, so that we avoid operational conflict. Now, if we are at the point of this very concession of state police, what do you think should be the jurisdictional issue? Are we going to have a state police that's going to become totally independent without any supervision by the federal police?
Well, where we copied our democracy from, probably we're going to look at how their own state police and other policing system work. Maybe we're going to look at that. But we can also take or borrow certain insights and also try to merge it with our own peculiarity. No doubt. It's working, and we're going to ensure that the governors do not turn our state police into a private army to suffocate, to intimidate opposition. We would not allow that. But if you go by what we have in the case of United States of America, they have what we call state police. And most times their state police could be equivalent to highway troopers, highway patrol troopers. That is one. They also have city police. And they also have sheriff system. The difference, if you look at the difference, the sheriff system is more like the local government policing system. The sheriff has jurisdiction in any county. I think apart from two states like Hawaii and one other state that don't use the sheriff system, every other state, the 48 states in the United States, out of the 50 states, they use sheriff system. Exception, just like I said, is Alaska, because Alaska does not use counties, they use boroughs, and also Connecticut. I'm aware that Connecticut abolished the sheriff system in 2000 and replaced them with the state marshals who are appointed and not elected. Remember, the sheriff system, as we have in the United States of America, the sheriff himself is elected by the people. But when you talk about the city police is appointed by the mayor of that very city. Take, for instance, we are in Anambra State. Every local government has a police system called the sheriff system. The head of that police system is elected by the people of that local government. Then you have the cities. You have Onitsha Metropolis, you have Oka, you have Ekulobia. and you can as well add Yala. These are some cities, and they have their police. But this time around, their police is appointed by the mayors of these very local governments.
As the police chief.
The police chief.
Okay.
That's what the city, the police chief is appointed by the mayor. The sheriff elected by the people. Then you also have the state troopers. That they have statewide jurisdiction. Now look at the issue of this jurisdiction. The sheriff has jurisdiction only in the local government. But they try to stay away from the city. Their cities are in the local government. Like Onitsha, for instance, we have a sheriff system where it goes all around, but it avoids the main area, the main city. But recall that the main city also tried to stay all away from the rural areas of the hinterlands, the Onitsha hinterlands.
Can we do examples with Anambra State? Take for instance, Anambra has places we can call the urban areas. We have places we can call the rural areas and semi-urban areas.
Yeah.
So can we use this example to relate to what it could be if we have this state police we're talking about?
Well, I'm just trying to mirror what is going on in the United States of America, not because we are going to adopt it. Here in Anambra State, we're going to have the local government police. We're going to have the state police. And I have also proposed town police. Every town should have a police. At the local government level, you have a police. At the state level, you have a police. Now, issue of jurisdiction. The town, of course, is within the local government. The local government is within the state. And the state police, they have what they call statewide jurisdiction. They can prosecute any state offense emanating from any place in the state. That is one. Then when you talk about the local government police, as we have in the United States of America, they call it sheriff. In this case, they can prosecute offenses within the local government. Every local government has got a magistrate court. But if it is state offense, of course, they hand over to the state police. Then if you come to the town, every town has got a customary court. But at times, if the offense itself is beyond the issue of customs and tradition, they can also hand them over to either the state police or the local government police for eventual prosecution. That's what we are looking at here. Now, there are things we must put in our laws to make sure that the governors do not turn the state police into their private armies. Like in the United States of America, federal courts hear cases emanating from either abuse, misuse, misconduct. Because if these cases do go to state courts, the governors may have influence. There is no place there is no corruption. If you ask the United States of America, why did they make their own policing system in a way that any case of abuse, misuse, misconduct, it goes to district court, that's federal court. It doesn't go to state court because they know that the governors may have influence in the state courts. So it is one of the ways to ensure that it is not abuse. And another way, in their own case, we can also adopt something here where anybody can sue the state police for abuse, for misconduct at the federal high court, where it is expected that the governors do not have that overriding influence. That is one. Then also, the other area we can also try to wage what governors could have as well used the police do and all that will be situation whereby there could be a consent agreement. And there could be a commission with police because we have police council at the federal level. We can also have police state council. Oppositions should be given slot and seats in the state police council. Yes, oppositions. When we are trying to compose or constitute the council, state police council, there will be seats allocated to oppositions, those who are not in the ruling party. Outside the fact that you could have traditional rulers, you could have members of the clergy, then the opposition, they should also have a seat. And at the same time, anybody can sue officers of the state police, not the state police itself. If any officer of the state police man handles you, you can sue that officer, sue both the state police. But this time around, at the federal courts, not at the state courts. These are things, United States of America, that's the kind of a way things they embedded to ensure that the state governors do not use them as private army. You think they don't have such fears we are having here in this country? They have the fears. I've always said that human mindset are always the same. It's a question of the kind of things you have put in to prevent them from getting away with things and ensuring that institutions are working. Because here in the country, if you even try to mimic what they do there, do you have strong institutions to withstand the pressure? And I've always said, in their own case, why didn't they allow the sheriff to be appointed by the mayors? Why? They say that the sheriff will be elected by the people. If you go to United Kingdom, the constable general is also elected by the people. They have the same fear you are having. They share the same fear. But they are looking at what are we going to do to ensure that this person or that person does not get away with this, but they will not use it to sideline and say we don't need the state police. Oh, governors will use it. Governors will do this with that. And people will keep dying in their numbers. There will be no policing space. They do not think in that way. They are thinking in this direction. What do we do to prevent those who could turn this system into their private armies to stop them, but not having the system at all? Here in this country, what many of us do is to, instead of these people using this or thinking of what we can do to stop these people from using it, we say, let's not have the system. Let's maintain what we have. The idea of maintaining what we have, we don't want. Why don't we think on how to prevent them, how to stop them from making use of the policing system we are proposing?
Okay,
the way they would want to use
it. So this is where the work lies, because this talk about state police, whether to have it or not to have it. But now it has become obvious that the federal government is disposed to it, and many states are also open to it. Where the work now lies is to devise the framework, divide the structure, put out the issue of the decision, demarcate it, set out all these things, put all the buffers to ensure that nobody gets to exploit it for anything pecuniary.
Exactly. And then the federal police, the federal government can intervene where it is understood that a state police is being used to oppress opposition, to intimidate opposition. The federal government, the way they can only intervene is to sue the state police, not by coming in form of marshal general, try to arrest. You sue them. Once you sue them, you go to court and get what we call consent agreement, situation whereby the judge, the federal judge, now assume a supervisor or assume supervisory role to see to the activities. I'm just trying to let you know how these things are done in the United States of America. But the most important thing is we must begin somewhere. We must start somewhere. Having nothing at all is reprehensible, is abominable, is unimaginable. We have many spaces on police in my locality, in my hometown of Sumoru, but we don't have a single policeman. In the neighboring towns, not even a single policeman. I can count number of police we have in my local government. And you want to tell me if there is any attack coming from anywhere, how would the people resist such attack? We must equip these men. We must have such a system where crimes can also be prosecuted apart from crime being prevented. I have been in support. I have been a strong advocate of such policing system. It doesn't stop at the state having the police. It must trickle down to the local government, down to the town. I would want to see, if I go down to my village, I will see the police doing their work. The people assess them, appraise them, and at the same time make some validations and commendations, support them. Of course, we have to get the security trust fund where people can also support this project. There are things we can do.
Okay, so let's go for this very commercial break. Once we return, we'll talk about what has been happening at our airport that made the president to say suspend for now till further notice. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
You're listening to Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Correct
gist our people. Udala Radio get better news for now. We don't join hand with one serious mobile gaming company and we carry something big come for Onitsha people. You get phone abi? You like game? You want play with millions of players from different countries, or you just one day play and they win? Then this one now for you. Make you come join our gaming community now. You fit stand chance to make name for yourself as you dey play and dey earn. The better you sabi the game, the bigger your reward. If you dey interested, no go yourself o. Just send text message with your phone number, your full name, your email address. Send am go 0803-350-4206 to register. No miss the opportunity o. Na better chance to join something wey go sweet and reward you well. All you need na just your phone. You fit dey anywhere, dey play, dey earn reward. Send your details now to 0803-350-4206. I go talk am again. 0803-350-4206. Make we start you up today. Udala Radio, we dey always bring una the correct best. Onitsha ndị nwe ahịa, nke a bụ ụzọ anyị si asị unu daalụ maka ọmarịcha otu afọ nke nzikọrịta ozi. Udala Radio dị otu afọ n'ọnwa Maachị a. N'ọnwa Maachị a niile, Udala nwere onyinye pụrụ iche maka ịgba afọ ọhụrụ a. Ịzụta advert slot abụọ, inwe otu mgbakwunye onyinye n'efu. Ịnụrụ nke ọma, ohere nke mgbasa ozi ahịa, ozi ọbụla maọbụ nke program ekwu ụgwọ, nweta ohere abụọ, anyị agbakwunyere gị otu. Nke a bụ ohere ị nwere ime ka ndị Onitsha n'obodo ndị ọzọ nụ ma mara maka ahịa gị. Gbata ọsọ ozugbo n'ihi ohere ọ pụrụ iche a malitere ugbu a ma bụrụ nke ga-abịa n'isi njedebe n'ụbọchị nke 31 n'ọnwa Maachị nke afọ a, n'ọnwa mgbakwunye afọ Udala. Maka ndebanye na ajụjụ, kpọọ anyị na 0803-350-4206 maọbụ bịa n'ụlọ ọrụ anyị dị n'Onitsha na nọmba 5 Okono Street n'okirikiri DMGS Roundabout. Ya bụ inwe ike ịkpọ anyị na 0803-350-4206 maọbụ bịa n'ụlọ ọrụ anyị na nọmba 5 Okono Street n'okirikiri DMGS Roundabout Onitsha. Udala Radio emeela otu afọ n'ọnwa Maachị a, ọkpọkọpi n'ezie.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM.
You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, you're listening to the Polity on Udala Radio 4.7 FM. It's 2 minutes past 10 a.m. My name is Franklin Bekandam with Tony Olisambreki. We are looking at the basic issues we have this very morning on our discussion. Certainly, before we jump to the next thing, we understand that there are some persons who have been asking questions regarding why would Disu assume office without confirmation by the Senate. Yesterday, we saw what happened in Abuja, where Mr. President almost, should I call that, inaugurated him, and he has gone ahead to begin to discharge his responsibility as the IGP. So, does the law require that the Senate must confirm the IGP before he assumes office?
Well, the law does not require that. Most times we have done things in this country based on what we imagine or the way we feel that it is acceptable. If you go by the Constitution, if you also go by the Police Act 2020, the President makes appointments on the advice of the Police Council. But I think the only aberration I suspected that happened was where Mr. President first and foremost appoints, and then from what I saw many dailies writing, the Police Council confirms. I also saw those who wrote Police Council ratifies. That's an aberration. Big one. The Police Council advises. Mr. President first jumped gun. He ought not to have made appointment without having the meeting. First and foremost, there will be such meeting of the Police Council. They will now make advice to you. Whoever you appoint becomes IGP. You swear the person in immediately. That's what the law provides. But things were done in a way probably for certain reasons or practice or tradition. Why Mr. President did what he did was because president before him did exactly the same. There were those that even sent the name of the IGP to the Senate for confirmation. Senate has no role in this case. They don't have any role to confirm anybody. What the law says, the council, police council, advises Mr. President, appoints, swears in, and the person becomes the Inspector General of Police. If you go by the provisions of Section 215 and also Section 7 of the Police Act, 215 of the Constitution and Section 7, these things are explicitly stated there. But when you see some journalists, some of our brothers in the industry writing, the police council confirms, did you read the law? Did the law say that the police council has a confirmatory role? They don't. Advisory role. And you have those who wrote the police council ratifies. Did the law say that the police council? These things I don't know.
If you look at an argument somewhere, there's an argument that somewhere in the Police Act, the Police Act requires that the Senate confirms the appointment of IGP as made by Mr. President. And then the argument would now be, if there is such provision in the Police Act and there is no such provision in the 1999 Constitution, how is it handled?
Well, the Constitution is supreme. The Constitution, we have always said, is supreme. But I think most times, at any point, there is a conflict between the Constitution and any law made by the National Assembly. To the extent of its inconsistency, that law made by the National Assembly becomes null and void. But who pronounces it null and void? The court. But you must act. Mr. President, of course, would always be guided by the Constitution. He swore by the Constitution. He did not swear by any act by the National Assembly. Oath of office, and allegiance, and then, of course, to uphold and preserve the provisions of the Constitution. The point is, we have said it many times, that even the Police Act, as we talked about, I'm just curious to also find out if at any point it did provide that the Senate would do that. But I've checked, just like I've said earlier on, if you go by the provisions of the Police Act, I've seen nowhere such acts make such provision. I've not seen anywhere.
So can we check Section 7.1 of the Police Act of 2020? If we check it and see what is contained there, and then we'll now try to see if there is such provision there, why does National Assembly always make this mistake? Because these people are there to make laws, and we assume that before they make laws, they should do extensive research, do consultations, do stakeholder meeting, do town hall, do public hearing and what have you, to be able to get different input from different professional bodies before going out to enact law. But we have seen that we have many laws made by the National Assembly that their provisions are inconsistent or in violation of the 1999 Constitution.
Just like you pointed out earlier on, because if you go by that very provision of Section 7, subsection 1 of the Nigerian Police Act, where it says that the Inspector General of Police shall be appointed by the President on the advice of the Nigerian Police Council and subject to the confirmation by the Senate. And if you look at the provision of Section 215 of the Constitution, just like as we mentioned earlier on, the President of Nigeria shall appoint the Inspector General of Police, and that appointment shall be made on the advice of the Nigerian Police Council, and that's where it stops. And then the Senate now introduces the version that says that it has power to confirm. But just like we said earlier on, the Constitution is supreme, and where there is any form of inconsistency or conflict, the provisions of the Constitution shall at all time override the provisions of any law made by the National Assembly. And the laws made by the National Assembly, of course, we call them acts. So that's more reason why Mr. President bypassed them and did what the Constitution states. And anybody can also challenge that in court. For Mr. President, he has done what the Constitution says.
Okay, so let's talk about the second thing, which is what happened yesterday. Because yesterday, President Bola Tinubu ordered the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, and the one we know as FAN, to immediately suspend the controversial cashless policy due to traffic congestion at airport nationwide. It was the Minister of Aviation and the Aerospace, Festus Keyamo, who disclosed this after a FEC meeting yesterday, which was held in Abuja. Now, this very directive was coming barely 4 days after the policy was rolled out across Nigeria, but we saw that there was a challenge associated with that very rollout, where we saw gridlock at major airport nationwide. Anybody who has used airports in Nigeria knows that there's a toll that is usually paid there once you are driving in, whether you are in a taxi or driving yourself or driver driving you, you're supposed to pay certain toll. It used to be cash, but they say cash is really with corruption. Now they want it to be cashless, and they went on to devise different payment platforms like the one they call Go Cashless Card or POS system, and these things are meant to be done at the airport access gate. But what we saw is that we saw different kinds of gridlock, and I told you the video of a white man who we saw. He had to jump on a bike to be able to meet up with his flight, and we saw the way he was carrying his 2 suitcases, and he was shaking his head in disapproval or the kind of ordeal that he passed through. So Tony, we look at the intent of this policy and why it has brought this kind of hardship on Nigerians.
Well, we know the intent. The intent is to cut revenue losses and also to ensure that corruption is minimized to its barest minimum, because the remittances are not channeled where they should be channeled. I understand that Festus Keyamo did some works with the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria to see to the advancement or to the transition to this cashless policy. It began this March. From the report I've got, it began this March, but immediately started. We saw queues everywhere. And if you look at it, it happens that you have to make cashless payments. Either you use POS terminal or QR code or bank transfers. These are different payment systems, but networks. And at the same time, people are not used to this system. They have been used to the old system, the traditional system of coming with cash. You make cash payments and you will have access to the airport. But situations where it has become increasingly difficult, people divert money, people do not render proper accounts, and there is no digitization, no record keeping of some of the payments made. Festus Keyamo, the aviation minister, thought it wise that the best would be for us to bring in cashless policy, where every payment now becomes electronic payments. But look at the problem it has also generated. We talked about a white man that mounted on a bike to see that he does not miss his flight. People started missing their flights. People will spend so many times at the airport gate, and you saw the large queue. The queues were so abnormal, if you ask me. And the president said, let's just redesign this. And you must also ensure campaign. There are people that don't even use most of these Android and iOS phones. There are people that cannot even make transfers. There are people that don't even come with an ATM. You have POS terminals around there. There are people that cannot even make use of the apps, where you can easily scan the QR codes. It becomes a problem. So redesign. And there are times people may not even know that they may have reason to be at that place. You may think that they may have planned their movement before now. There are people that do have some emergencies, and you storm at the airport only to be delayed for a long hour, or sometimes minutes, by such a queue. But we know how these things work in other countries. We know very well that if you go to China, everything is paid using QR codes, and they have their apps. I know they have WeChat and Alipay. If you go to Japan, airports, train, and vending machines, they make use of these payments. They do cashless payments in most of these airports, even in the United Kingdom, even in the United States, even in Singapore. These are places you have some of these systems working, but they don't work very well in this country. And if you look at the best airports we have in the world, of course, if you go to Hamad International Airport in Doha, Qatar, which is spotted or agreed to be number 1 airport in the world, they use ultra modern payment systems. Even in Singapore, the Changi Airport, Singapore, which is also denoted as number 2 airport in the world, these things do happen. In fact, I don't know where we belong when it comes to the issue of airport ranking. I don't know if any Nigerian airport will make up to 500 best airports in the world. But that's by the way. The truth is, if you introduce something new, you must give time and space to allow people to adapt. There is need for adaptation. And there is also need for us to improve network around the airport area. It's important. I understand the need for cashless, because some of these workers and employees that do these manual collections, they don't remit as expected. They do divert. There are places, if you go to these airports I talked about, there is no human interface. Most of them, you come with card, you lock in your card. Deductions are made, you parks. AI takes charge of these things we are talking about in these airports. In fact, these airports I've talked about, AI takes charge of this. No human interference.
I'm wondering what could have been the cause of the traffic jams we have, the gridlock we had at these very airports in Nigeria, the one in Abuja, the one in Lagos, and what have you not. There were cases of this kind of situation. Now, I try to compare it to the airports you mentioned, or if you talk about the busiest airport in the world, you mentioned Dubai International Airport, talk about the Shanghai Pudong Airport, talk about the Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson Airport and others who are known to be very busy airport across the world. And we don't get to hear these issues about gridlock because people are trying to, pay the airport toll via online or what have you not. Then we now have it here in Nigeria introduced. And not that our airports are all that busy, and we're having this very challenge. Now the question is, since the president has said, go back to the drawing board, what do you think should be a more people-friendly alternative that can balance revenue transparency, and then passenger convenience?
Well, the hybrid system, which Mr. President directed, hybrid where you allow both e-payments and cash payment as well. That's the hybrid system. For now, we can manage that because of limited infrastructures and other challenges we are having. But there are places, even if you go in the world, like in United States of America, they still allow limited cash options, where it is saying that e-option failed you must make application, you fill a form where you'll be allowed to make cash payment. If you know that you are having challenges making e-payment, you will fill a form where you'll be allowed to make cash payment so that you can catch up your flight. It's allowed. I'm not saying because we have situations in the country, because those who, for one reason or the other, did support the manual backup in our electoral system, where if this doesn't work, that works. They are saying, if I look at cashless policy introduced, look at the problem of network, and these are people who want the same to come into our electioneering system. But remember, you cannot equate the two. These people, they have their flights booked and it's time bound. Election is almost every day. For the whole day. Election is for the whole day. You are not hurrying up as against missing your flight. You are not trying to do anything, as the election is just the whole day. So they are not the same. And we also understand that there are buffer system, as we have explained, that even if you upload these results, that by the time you get to a particular place, these results will flash at the server. These things are not the same, but I've seen people who are making such comparisons in our discussion as far as this is concerned.
Okay, so Tony, let's now go to politics, because with less than 3 months to May 30 deadline for the counter-party primaries, including resolving any issues arising from these very primaries. Yesterday we saw that INEC warned political parties against conducting flawed primaries and allowing internal crises to fester, and they went on to caution them against any kind of practice that might jeopardize preparations for the 2027 general election. But there was something that stood out that yesterday, because INEC chairman George Amipeto, he spoke at the opening of a 3-day technical review workshop on the regulations and guidelines for political parties, which happened in Ikotebene in Akwa Ibom State. Now, where I want us to look at is something that happened at that very roundtable concerning the provisions of the Electoral Act of 2026, which requires political parties to maintain e-register. If you look around now, you see that most parties have begun e-registration. As at the last count, ADC is doing, APC is doing, ABGA is doing, which other party? I don't know about Labour Party, but most parties are doing this e-registration, because if you look at the Electoral Act of 2026, I think Section 70 subsection 1 now places a requirement on parties on what they should do. Section 77, subsection 4. It now mandates all registered parties to submit their digital membership register to INEC not later than April 2nd, 2026. And it's saying that this is a precondition for the parties to participate in the election. Now, with this now, parties are now raising questions, especially those who are in the opposition. They are saying that it appears like this Electoral Act, or this very provision in the Electoral Act, was put in there against them because they know that many of them might not be able to get their e-register ready and make it available to INEC before April 2nd. So what challenge does this present before parties, Tony?
Well, it presents a lot of challenges because if you look at this coming election, many political parties are struggling and many of them are complaining already. You talked about the issue of Section 77, subsection 3, and we're going to talk about Section 77, subsection 4, and also Section 82, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act, the newly amended Electoral Act. If you look at these sections, you find out that INEC may demand 21, you must submit your digital registers to INEC not at least 30 days before primaries. Membership at these registers must be up to date, valid, where members who would participate in that election will be members as seen in that register. And if you look at it, many political parties believe that is a way of trying to box them into a particular corner on how to do their nomination. When the Supreme Court has ruled that the issue of nomination is entirely an internal affairs of political parties. And now INEC is trying to say that by the provisions of this new law, as assented by Mr. President, you must submit your digital register 21 days to your primaries. And those who are seen in that register, those the names seen there, they are the ones who can be voted for or also vote. They can be voted for, or they can also either contest or be voted for, or be those that will vote, as the case may be. But the political parties are not finding it very funny. You know what it is like to get a digital register, and then there will be NIN. Before now, when you talk about digital registers, NIN was not mentioned, national identity number, and is now compulsory that the names there must have valid NIN. I understand what the new Electoral Act is trying to do is to strengthen internal democracy of political parties, is to stabilize political parties, is also to cut malpractices, is also to cut down some of the short practices and short corners they do take most times during these primaries. And you remember, candidates we are going to have for this election and ratify it by yes or no vote. And they can do that yes or no vote at any place. It could be Congress, it could be rally, it could be anywhere. The most important thing is that that's consensus. They may not need to have direct primaries, because for you to conduct direct primaries, you must conduct direct primaries at every ward. At every ward. You know what it is to conduct such a primary at every ward. Because if you try to look at a central place where you can conduct it, logistics becomes a problem. You can't just come to a particular field in a community and say you are conducting for the local government. At what level? That's where you can also have this issue of direct primaries. So political parties will be going for consensus. And for you to arrive at consensus, because you have the provisions of the law, the participants, of course, will also agree. The most important thing is many political parties are not finding it funny.
So do you see these parties failing to meet up?
They may. Look at the time for primaries. Look at the time they're asked to submit their digital register. There's no time. There are those who started this process long ago, because some have accused APC to have been the one that imposed this on every political party.
Now, did APC see this coming and began to plan ahead, or there was a coincidence because it was planning its national convention? Because APC was the first to begin this very e-registration. Before we had PDP, Abuga announced its own last week, in as much as Abuga began many years ago but stopped, but now it has recommenced. So did APC see that coming, that eventually the law is going to go this very way, and they began ahead of time?
Probably. That's what some political parties are accusing APC of. If you look at dates for party primaries, the start date will be April 23, and the end date will be 30th of May. After March, you have April. And many are saying, where is the time to submit the register? Even before, remember, INEC says you must submit the register before the primary. So whatever time you decide to choose within this window for primaries, 23rd of April to 30th of May, you must submit the register. In some places, they say at least 30 days to the primaries. And many are saying, we have not even started this process. When are we going to conclude the process? When then do we have time to submit and prepare for primaries? Many of them are shocked already. Now, that's why these things are happening.
And the what is the fate of party waivers? Because we used to see parties whereby somebody who is maybe a money bag, who they think they have the money, walks into a party maybe 3 months to the primary election, becomes a member, and the party give the person a waiver. An instance is an Anambra case, the last gubernatorial election, where Nicholas Okechukwu joined the party. Likewise, Valentine Wazibo, and they were given a waiver to contest. With this development, where INEC is saying, or the law is saying, any member, the name must be in the e-register, what becomes this fate of waiver that right the party exercises when it comes to waiver?
Well, it is still there. No matter how you try to pull it out, the party can still give a waiver. All they need to do is to ensure that the person they are going to give a waiver, his name is in the register, which they will submit 30 days to time.
So if eventually, because of course it will require a prior arrangement.
And that's what it is.
For that to happen.
The thing is, if, let's use this window for instance. Let's assume that we decide to fix primaries for party SYZ for instead of that, because the end date is 30th of May, and we decide 25th of May, which is still within the window. And somebody can advance from a political party where he lost out to another political party, and the person comes in there. The party can decide, no, what? We still have 1 month time to submit our register. Even if you have submitted, we can also recall it back and say we want to update. And in such updates, the person's name.
Would there be room for that, where you can record a register and resubmit?
They said updated. That's the law. The law says updated. You can keep updating. I don't know if you understand that. The law says updated register. You keep updating from time to time. They can still have such space to put in somebody and give a waiver. But the key thing is, what I had wanted them to do would be something that where somebody loses out in primaries and one party cannot go to another party to contest.
So maybe register, and you go there, contest primary, you lose out, and then you now go to negotiate with another party for you to become their flag bearer. So would your name appear in 2 political parties?
You have to resign. No, you can resign from you cannot be a member of 2 political parties. But the situation where what you said now, if this situation arises, the issue will be the person will resign and address to the former party that he has resigned, he ceases to be a member of the party, and also we wish that his name be deleted from the register, and would also request them to give INEC updated register where his name will not be there. And he goes on to the other party where he's not a member and asks them to also give to the INEC. They have a way of maneuvering this thing, so it's not going to be a problem.
I tell you what, we're likely to see litigations in this very area in the coming election.
And we're also going to look up to Supreme Court to also interpret, because look at what the Supreme Court has said. INEC has no power to disqualify any political party from contesting an election, has no power to disqualify any candidate if you are to go by previous judgment of the Supreme Court. INEC is just an umpire. You can't disqualify, just like a referee. Referee cannot disqualify a team, referee cannot disqualify a player, but the referee can give a player a red card.
Okay, so with what is playing out now, Zamfara State Governor is said to be weighing his options, whether he's going to join the APC before the deadline, based on what you're talking about, or whether he's going to stay in the PDP. From what we gathered, he's waiting to hear what the appeal court is going to say on PDP crisis for him to decide whether to join or not. From what I gathered, something has been tabled before him already. If you join APC, this is what you are going to gain. This is what we are going to concede to you. You are going to get automatic ticket and what have you not. Also today, we are expecting to hear from former governor of Bayelsa State, Dixon. He said by 2 p.m. he's going to make an announcement on his new political future. Whether he's going to join a newly formed political party or whether he's going to leave PDP and join ADC or PDP. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Udala Radio 104.7 FM. Seriously authentic.
Quality bread, Wendy's bread. For your family breakfast, Wendy's bread. I'll pack it on the yellow, Wendy's bread. Mama, papa, they like Wendy's bread. Kitchen and Wendy's bread. Even children, they like Wendy's bread. Oh, Wendy's bread. I'm in town. Wendy's bread. You get it better, tasty, we go sweet your belly. Wendy's bread. Wendy's your bachama. Wendy's bread.
Wendy's bread, tasty bread. You can contact us on our official address, Second Business Park, Enugu Road, GRA, beside Onitsha, Anambra State. We also have another branch at St. Michael Plaza at Tandy Road. Also contact us on 070-1149-1571. Wendy's bread, your tasty bread.
Wendy's bread.
Correct gist our people. Udala Radio get better news for now. We don't join hand with one serious mobile gaming company and we carry something big come for Onitsha people. You get phone abi? You like game? You want play with millions of players from different countries, or you just one day play and they win? Then this one now for you. Make you come join our gaming community now. You fit stand chance to make name for yourself as you dey play and dey earn. The better you sabi the game, the bigger your reward. If you dey interested, no do yourself or just send text message with your phone number, your full name, your email address. Send them go 0803-350-4206 to register. No miss the opportunity. Now better chance to join something where go sweet and reward you well. All you need now just your phone. You fit there anywhere. They play, they earn reward. Send your details now to 0803-350-4206. I go talk again. 0803-350-4206. Make we start you up today. Udala Radio. We they always bring una the correct best. Onitsha ndị nwe ahịa nke a bụ ụzọ anyị si asị unu daluo maka ọmarịcha otu afọ nke nzikọrịta ozi. Udala Radio dị otu afọ n'ọnwa Maachị a. N'ọnwa Maachị a niile, Udala nwere onyinye pụrụ iche maka ịgba afọ ọhụrụ a. Ịzụta advert slot abụọ, inwe otu mgbakwunye onyinye n'efu. Ịnụrụ nke ọma, ohere nke mgbasa ozi ahịa, ozi ọbụla maọbụ nke program ekwu ụgwọ, nweta ohere abụọ, anyị agbakwunyere gị otu. Nke a bụ ohere ị nwere ime ka ndị Onitsha n'obodo ndị ọzọ nụ ma mara maka ahịa gị. Gbata ọsọ ozugbo n'ihi ohere ọ pụrụ iche a malitere ugbu a ma bụrụ nke ga-abịa n'isi njedebe n'ụbọchị nke 31 n'ọnwa Maachị nke afọ a, n'ọnwa mgbakwunye afọ Udala. Maka ndebanye na ajụjụ, kpọọ anyị na 0803-350-4206 maọbụ ịbịa n'ụlọ ọrụ anyị dị n'Onitsha na nọmba 5 Okono Street n'okirikiri DMGS Roundabout. Ya bụ inwe ike ịkpọ anyị na 0803-350-4206 maọbụ ịbịa n'ụlọ ọrụ anyị na nọmba 5 Okono Street n'okirikiri DMGS Roundabout Onitsha. Udala Radio emeela otu afọ n'ọnwa Maachị a. Ọkpọkọpi n'ezie.
Something big is coming your way.
Something extraordinary.
A festival of fast things.
Is Mega Fest 2026 and the Mega Church Silver Jubilee.
Live at the Mega Church headquarters opposite Army Gate, Onitsha.
It's our season of supernatural manifestation.
Do you need a lasting impact and supernatural shift?
Then this program is for you. Come and encounter God who is able to heal, deliver, restore, and prosper you.
Date Wednesday and Thursday, the 4th and 5th of March 2026. services. Time 4:30 p.m. daily. Friday, all night mega praise and worship. Time 9 p.m. While on Sunday, the 8th of March is the grand finale of this great event. Time 8 a.m.
Come and encounter God via the ministration of Bishop Bolu Martins, Pastor Ozo Jonathan, Apostle Dan Ugu, ministering in songs, Mr. M and the Revelation, and other gospel ministers.
Host, Pastor Mrs. Njideka Ifanyigwe.
The pool is said, come and witness the supernatural power of God.
Udala Radio, 104.7 FM.
You're listening to the Polity. Get involved now.
Okay, you are listening to the Polity on the Radio 104.7 FM. Of course, it's time for you to get involved because it's 10:36 a.m. My name is Franklin Bekanda with Tony Odisambeki, and we are going to open the phone lines for you to join the conversation. Don't forget, we're also live on our Facebook page, Udala Radio 104.7 FM. So, Tony, just time in a minute. Let's quickly talk about this. I mentioned Governor of Zamfara State, Dauda Lawal, who is reported that he's weighing his options whether to defect to the APC or not. And like I said, some offers have been made to him, and he's looking at this appeal court to know what is going to be its verdict on the PDP crisis, so that will now help him to decide whether to move or not. And do you see him leaving PDP? If he leaves, would you say it's disappointing, given the fact that he wants a second term and might need to find a way to get that for himself? Then secondly, former Governor of Bayelsa State, Seraki Dixon, yesterday he made a post suggesting that it might be over between him and the PDP, and he's on his way out to somewhere. Now, let's look at what he said yesterday, because he made a post on his X handle. He said that people should watch out, that he's going to address a press conference by 2 p.m. today being Thursday. And from his post, there was speculation that he might join a newly formed political party. So, Tony, quickly.
Well, many politicians are battling with political survival. That's what we are seeing. And if you look at Dauda Lawal, he has been a bona fide member of PDP. Many of them are looking at the timeline for primaries, where if the remaining PDP, which PDP faction is authentic faction, if you are to go by the pronouncement of the court, of course we saw Oyo State High Court pronouncing the outcome of the convention to be valid. We've also had another court, Federal High Court, nullifying the outcome of that very convention by the faction led by Turaki Samino. It is now incumbent upon the appeal court to make a decision, and they have to also look at the time. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to wait till the outcome of the appeal court. He has timed it. He doesn't even know when appeal court will be making judgment. I don't know if they have given date for judgment, but time is ticking. His leaving PDP is purely on the basis of to avoid had I known. The same applies to Seraki Dixon. He hasn't followed likes of Dioduru when he joined APC. He did not sanction that, even when one thought that he's the political father or godfather of Dioduru. And then if you look at his former deputy, Ewera Jabo, who had been his political godson for a long time, did not follow Dioduru. The likelihood he's going to join ADC is there. He has really criticized PDP government. We've seen during the time we saw what we saw at the National Assembly over real-time transmission. He spoke with the opposition. He joined the opposition in this struggle. But politicians cannot be trusted. Don't trust politicians. They are after their interests. You don't even vouch for any of them. I said any of them. They are after their interests. Whatever that is true today may become right. Look at Redo Mercury. Everything he said in the past, he has recanted. He has said that he was not properly guided. He was not well informed when he made those statements, because the dynamics have changed. If you look at many of them, in fact, their most trusted politician can disappoint you tomorrow. Go and write this word. Your most trusted politician can disappoint you tomorrow. Okay. It's a game of interest.
All right, so let's get to the phone lines now. You can reach us via the telephone lines 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694. or you can use our social media platform. We are live on our Facebook page. Get on that very page and drop your comment. And please, when you call in, try to take 1 minute, make your comment. So we urge you to articulate your thoughts very well so that you'll be able to push it at the turn of the button. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
You. I'm welcome. Thank you very much. I didn't hear the voice of my friend this morning. You did say one thing. My name is Odaze, Delta State.
Okay.
Ogidigada, you said something that caught my attention and my eyes. I've been in this game for quite some time, yes. One can say I'm veteran, yes. There is no politician that tells it to you the way it is today in Nigeria. We don't have them anymore. And we got to admit the fact that we don't have them anymore. We had them during Ekweme, Shagari, and the rest. They were all there. These people came to rescue their country, to love Nigeria, for the love of Nigeria. So those you have now, the carpet brothers, have come to slice Nigeria into bits and pieces. Like it's a piece of big elephant, and they're cutting it and eating it up. But be that as it may, we are now watching carefully. Things are changing. Yes. We must change our country. We must take back our country, no matter. Even those that one former governor of Delta State called Vagabond, that's not his name, we call him Vagabond, you know. Believe that you got to fight this country. No.
Okay.
We shall not. Let them just continue. The River State River Code is a shame. It is not anyway called democracy. And Nigerians must try to delete that in their... just delete it. There is no democracy like what you have in River State. It's as simple as that. And we must tell all of them there that there is no democracy called that.
All right, thank you.
Let's say thank you.
All right, thank you for dropping by to drop your comments. 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694. Those are telephone lines you can use to get across to us. Today's program, we've looked at about 3 issues we have talked about this very morning, and the room is for you. Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear us?
Good morning. Here. Calling from Umbo.
Okay, go on.
Yeah. The thing is that I hope the election will make a wise choice to join APC because as it stands now, DK has destroyed APC, no doubt. So even as the first governor, I think we join APC. There's no way. In fact, he has done it. Just trying to make it. I know it's definitely so that you find a way to get second seat. That's my opinion on this.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That has been noted. Okay. It's been noted. Also, we're going to acknowledge your post on our social media platform, on our Facebook page very soon. We are going to get there. So if you want to drop your comment there, you can go ahead, drop the comment. We will surely get to that very point. It's only there's another story about how parents are moving their children from private schools to public schools these days because of the economic hardship we have in the country, and there have seeing that is becoming unsustainable for them to have their kids and school in private schools where it costs more for you to train a child of there than in public schools. And that brings you to reality that we are facing now. Many years ago, it used to be public schools that were the in thing. But because of how government has neglected these very schools, we are now seeing private schools who are taking over. They now offer better facilities and what have you not. And that's why people are going there. If you talk about higher education too, the same thing is also happening there. And now parents are moving their kids from these various schools to public schools. How do you look at this, Noah, as somebody who is witnessing the hardship in the country? Is it that reality is beginning to set for Nigerians, or they don't have option?
Well, the reality is beginning to set. One, we know very well the hardship in the country. People are really passing through a lot. The hardship is excruciating, very excruciating, very painful, and more reason why some parents are pulling their wards from private schools and engaging them with public schools. Private schools, we know they are expensive, no doubt, but they want to ensure that they will be able to attend to other needs of the family, because the family has got so many needs. These needs must be attended to, and that's more reason things are the way they are, and everybody is trying to struggle. People are passing through a lot, no doubts, but we keep hoping that it's gonna get better.
Okay. Okay, thank you for staying tuned to the Radio 104.7 FM. Let's see who we have here. Okay. The call drops. Let's see if you have somebody on the second line. Okay. Try 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694. Those are the studio lines you can use to get across to us this very morning. And I have to go to the Facebook page now. Let's see some of the posts we have there. This one is coming from Johnson Divine. It's an episode that he wrote, so I'll try the much I can to take a part of what he posted. He said he posted from Awadobos, and he says, state police, yes, for me, but first of all, we must have to go to regional control of resources, since the state will be the one to be paying the police. You can't give a state more responsibility without a commensurate revenue generation, because one of the implications is that by the time you owe a young policeman of about 30 to 35 years old, with or without a family, a month or 2 months salary, he begins to think of what he or she can do to survive. And he says, remember, these are people that have guns in their hands. And he says, therefore, I am of the opinion that the federal government should first of all allow the state to go to manage their resources themselves, because it will go a long way in downing agitations. Hello. Okay. Try again. 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694. And we'll look at another post we have on our Facebook page coming from Onyeka Nemeka. Thank you for following. Likewise, Maazinworie Chikwadurum. Okay, he says he posted from, or that one, he says Nigerian politicians have adopted the culture of defection. Then this very one is coming from Retract Obiagu Ikechu Christopher. He posted from College of Education, and so when he says Nigeria is still struggling with cashless policy at the airport, and other advanced countries are far beyond that. From the narrative that are coming towards the failure of cashless policy at the airport, compared to the real-time transmission of election result, it may be a calculated effort to justify the upcoming failure of real-time transmission of election result. It seems that this present government is far beyond the people in rigging plans. So, Tony, the issue of the challenges we have had with the cashless policy at the airport, is it about network or the fact that you have a good number of persons who are coming for this, and this is a new system, and it's not swift, and at the same time, you might not have enough outlets and personnel to handle this?
Oh, you are talking about the
cashless policy at the airport. Yeah.
It has many issues. One, you are looking at number of servers, you're looking at the network. There are different modes of payment. You have the POS, you have the bank transfers, you have the QR code. These are different channels. You have the payment through the app. So these are ways you can make payments. But I've explained this, that there are people and have not adopted and also adapted to this new system. You must show evidence of payment before you are allowed to pass. And how that is generated is also a problem, because the airport is also busy. How many people at that airport attend to this queue? How many ways can one drive in? You can't have just one way. By the time, if it takes just 2 minutes for you to process somebody's payment or to see to the fact that the person has paid, the line will be so long, will be lengthy. So it's expected that we will have many servers. Servers in this sense is those who will be attending to those who must have made payments online or electronic payment. And they may have many routes to the airport, not just one, where you'll be stopped at the gate. That's more reason maybe the president told them to redesign the system. You must create rooms where many people will be checked concurrently. There will be concurrence in attendance to people, to those who are coming to the airport. Without that, you are not enabling anything. Even when the server or the network does not hint or impede the process, but the people you have mounted at the toll gates, shaking on people, how many are there? How many routes do you have to search up on? These are things they must consider. Once they improve on these things, I think the queue will minimize.
So Tony, there's an observation that it seems like anything introduced in Nigeria, there is a design embedded in it to make Nigerians suffer. Talk about NIN, Nigerians will suffer. Change of currency, it happens. Register for vote, it happens. Like, is there anything we have rolled that in this very country that we are not subjected to different kinds of suffering? Can't we have these very systems run without people passing through excruciating pain just to get things done?
Poor planning, poor implementation, poor management. That's why we have all these things you mentioned. Sometimes before you roll out a system, you must have experimented on it and see how people adapt to it and see how you can easily make progress out of it. You don't just roll out something and expect people to just gain in just minutes or with a way you may even feel or think or imagine. No, it doesn't work that way. We have poor planning and implementation system in this country. That's more reason why we keep having problems from time to time. And we keep seeing these problems as if that these things, when they are rolled out in other countries, we see how swift in implementation, we see how effective these things are. But when we bring them here, it becomes a different ball game. You see bottlenecks everywhere. It's poor planning, poor implementation, and at the same time, poor feasibility study.
Okay, so let's say if we can take calls, because we noticed that the phone lines have been difficult this very morning. So let's try again. 0803-221-6973 or 0803-827-6694. And from our Facebook page, we have this very post from Christian Umunapweha, and he says President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is out to ensure the security of Nigerians by implementing the state police. That is why Amotekun, or rather, that is why that's why the immediate past IGP was removed, and he says he wishing the new IGP the best in his endeavor. Then he goes on to add that Iran is a geopolitical power in the Middle East. US and Israel should respect that for peace to reign in the world. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Okay, your name?
Yeah, my name is George.
Okay, just take 1 minute.
Let me talk about this state police issue that
we have been saying for a very long time, which I know that Mr. Tony is very vocal on it. But a question that I should like to ask is that if the state police now came into law, are they going to integrate some of these federal police that we have now, personnel, to start operating as a state police, or they are going to be a new recruitment entirely? Because we must know exactly what is going on in the state. We're talking about the revenue and how to raise funds. Or are Nigerians are going to book a different budget that will be taking care of the state police? Because even the Amoteku that we are talking about and the Udogashi at Anambra, we will always hear about some part that they will come out and complain that they'll be owing them salary and they'll be doing this. So how the state can create a revenue? Because yes, I believe that we have overcome that level that people have been saying that the state governor will be using them doing this. But all I need to say is that if you now implement state police today, that we now have state police, does the Nigeria government to be doing a separate budget concerning the state police?
All right.
Or they are going to do the same budget for the federal police? If you read the time for paying the state police, they will now put, because I know that in different states now, they have a federal office there. They have a state office there. Like now in Asabaya, we have a federal secretariat, and we have a state secretary, which the people from the federal pay those people their salary.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Josh.
The
We're out of
people for
time.
the state.
Thank you, Josh. Try to understand we're out of time. So, Tony, we have to address this. Let me also acknowledge Dr. Misimo Lebara, who posted on our Facebook page. So, Tony, Josh asked some questions.
Well, by the time we roll out the state police, we would also look at the framework. But speculatively, if we roll out the state police, there are those in the current federal policing system that may want to leave the federal police to state police. They will be allowed to do so. They will be allowed to do so. And there are those who want to go to their home states and ensure police. The idea of state police is to make sure that people understand the terrain. Those who are policing you, one, they know the terrain, they understand their language, and the people also know them and know where they are from. I have explained this, that it's going to work in 3 tiers or 3 layers. One, the council, the town, the local government, and at the state level. Whatever name you may give them. But the state should also be allowed to adopt some models that will suit their geopolitical idiosyncrasies. They should be allowed to do so. But the most important thing, there will be some works done to ensure that the governors do not monopolize or turn them into their private army. We explained this during the conversations. But the state will pay them. You don't have to state police and expect the federal government to bear the cost. It doesn't work that way. But the state may have other ways where they can pool funds to ensure the sustenance of the state policing system. They could have a state police trust fund or local council police trust fund or town police trust fund to ensure that people contribute. It's everybody's business.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Tony. And we thank every one of you who joined today's conversation. At this point, we have to end it and return tomorrow. Thank you all for listening. My name is Franklin Ebuka. Good morning.